In this video, I will show you to break through the ceiling in your e-commerce company, land bigger deals, and open up your brand to completely new prospects without spending a single dollar in advertising. And if you stick around to the end of this video, I will show you a trick that will let you increase the chances of you getting one of these deals by 30 to 40%. My name is Rich AK, and I run a company called AK Growth. We build and scale e-commerce brands just like yours. And in this video, I'm going to share with you a simple tactic. It's one strategy that really differentiates the top players, people who grow to stratospheric levels, versus everybody else who sort of just fizzles out and dies with their e-commerce brand. Now, there's a ton of e-commerce companies out there, and most people who are going to be kind of giving you promotion and advice in this kind of range are going to be like, oh, go post on social media. Oh, go do some advertising. Oh, go do this, go do that. But you don't need to do any of this. And it's remarkable to me how many people know about this, but they don't do it, or they do it, but they only do 5% of what they actually need to do in order to get this done. So this tactic is really simple. All you need to do is figure out an offer, okay? And number two, you need to reach out to companies, brands, organizations, people who are bigger and more known than you are. Now that sounds really simple, but most people, they don't ever push past the thresholds, the barriers, in order to actually make that something that's reality for them. Think of it this way. If you make $30,000 a month in your e-commerce brand and somebody else makes $300,000 a month in their e-commerce brand, wouldn't it make sense for you to try to reach out to that company to actually get some sort of promotions, to get some sort of partnership deal with them? Well, most people attempt to do this, and this is the first trap that most e-commerce brands land in. They reach out to one company that they like, they reach out to one influencer that they like, they reach out to one organization that they like, and they're like, oh, they never reached back out to me, guess this doesn't work. When in reality, you need to push the threshold much further than that. And for most people, pushing the threshold isn't one person, it's 5 people, or 10 brands, or 20 companies, or 30 e-commerce brands. But what I'm going to tell you right now probably will shock you, or maybe it won't at all. And that is, you need to reach out to at least 50, 75, 100, 150 different companies. And that's not it. You can't just like reach out to them and be like, hey, you guys want to do something? It doesn't work like that. You have to, before you start doing this, think about what you're going to be able to offer these brands, because reality is they're a lot bigger than you. So they're not looking, if they're making $300,000 a month, they're not looking at somebody who's making $30,000 a month and be like, oh, we should work with them. It doesn't work like that. They're looking for companies that are trying to make $3 million a month. So think about it. Everybody's trying to move up. But you have something that's very unique and very special about you. You are going to build and create an offer that makes sense for that company. You are not going to approach them with this perspective of like, look what we got. We're so special. We're so great. You're going to approach them from the angle of this is what they need. This is what they want. And we can offer this to them. And so it's going to take you a little bit of time to craft this offer, and you're going to want to continue to edit it along the way. But you don't want to just start off and blast every single person or every single e-commerce brand that you see around you in a 100-mile radius and just kind of tell them that like, hey, we're so great, you should come work with us because we're going to help your company make sales. They're not stupid. They're not going to be like, oh, this company that's a tenth the size of us is going to help us make sales. It doesn't work like that. Right? Like they're working on their bigger problems. And so you need to start matching up to those bigger problems. Most e-commerce brands die and fizzle out because people don't spend enough time on the offers that they craft for their companies. And so they wonder, why isn't my stuff working? And so think about it this way. Most people just end up trying to build more features on their website. They try to do more social media stuff. Like they'll focus on everything except the core problem, which is people aren't buying on our website. You can send tons and tons and tons of traffic and spend all of your money on advertising, but if it's not converting, if it's not bringing back repeat customers, there's something wrong with your product, there's something wrong with your offer. Like it's really not that difficult, right? And so you have to kind of start approaching it from this angle in the same way if you're going to be looking for a partnership. But think of it this way as well. If you can actually get a company that's 10 times bigger than you to do a deal with you, guess what's going to happen? You're going to blow up in the stratosphere relative to what size you've been operating at. And that's a good problem to have. Now, there's obviously a lot to creating an offer that makes sense for a company that's way bigger than you. But one thing that you will need to have is volume, like we discussed. You don't hit up 5, 10, 15 people. You hit up 75, 100, 150 different companies, and you find out how to actually source those people. Because the other next excuse you hear from people is like, oh, I don't know where to look. And it's like, okay, you have all these tools in front of you. You can certainly call someone and be like, hey, can you help me farm out some of these emails for these stores, because I need to reach out to these people. There's lists out there. There's YouTube. If you go to YouTube and you go to a company's YouTube channel, you can go to their about page and they have an email address that you can actually go and use. And so that's a direct connection. You can use a contact form, although generally try to use direct email. Don't overcomplicate it. Like, send them a personalized message. Craft this offer to be something that you would actually share with a friend, right? Like, you want to make this feel super personalized. You don't need any special tools. Like, the amount of technology that you need for this literally will cost you $0. And so you have to approach it from that angle, make it very simple, use a basic spreadsheet or use a notepad or use whatever in order to just keep your list going. That's really not the important part. You will figure out a way to source those lists of companies if you actually really want to do this. What you do need to focus on is how are you going to craft this offer? And I'm going to give you a couple of really important points that are going to get you 90% of the way there. Because realistically speaking, people make 6-hour, 12-hour, month-long courses on how to craft a really good offer. And there's a bunch of people out there who can craft a really good offer. And so in this video, I'm going to give you 2 of the quickest points that I think will certainly make the biggest difference between making something that's to making something that's like, wow, this is actually pretty impressive. Okay. So number 1 is your confidence. It's your conviction. It's your tone. It's how you approach this person in the first place. After you figure out what these companies are looking for, like, there's going to be something that's like a shared thread. So think of it from that angle. Once you can find that angle and you can start trying to test it, you need to apply confidence. You need to apply a level of conviction to it. Otherwise, they're not going to want to work with you. You need to feel like you're important. You need to feel like, hey, you would be missing out to not work with me. Okay, so don't approach them from this angle like, hey, we're a really small boutique shop and we don't really have too many sales going on, blah, 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 blah. A company that's 10 times your size is not going to want to work with you if that's how you start off the conversation. Even if they like small boutique shops, they're like, I don't think this company really has figured it out yet, right? Like, you want to work with people who are winning. You want to work with people who are confident. So utilize that same strategy. You're not going to approach someone and like when you're trying to pitch them and be like, oh, we're okay. We're just really humble. Don't worry about being humble right now. Be confident, express it, showcase it. That's number 1. Number 2 is you need to, I call this the good to great method. And this is actually something that I've done with my friend, and we kind of stumbled upon this on accident because when we were crafting offers very similar to this, and you'd be surprised how big you can create a partnership deal just by doing this strategy. But that's a side note. But when I was crafting offers with my friend, with my buddy, we had this good to great method that we used. And so what would end up happening is I would write up an offer and I would have him read it. In your case, it might be somebody who's a partner, or it might be somebody who's very invested in the company, or it might be somebody who is also very business-minded like yourself. You have to approach people who are actually invested, who actually care, and who actually want to win. If you show this to somebody who's making $25 an hour at your company, they're not going to give you the feedback that you need. But what we would do is if he said, yeah, that's good, I would be like, that's the problem. We need to go back and rework this because we're not looking for good, we're looking for great. And so it was the good to great method. If somebody tells you something's good, it shouldn't be good because that offer is not going to sell. It needs to be a great offer. Like, until the person reads and is like, this is great. like I'm sold, right? Like I'm actually sold on our own offer right now. That's when you know you can start. That's like your baseline. And so as you start approaching these companies, what you're going to want to do is you're going to want to test against this baseline. You're going to want to test against the great, because when you test against the great, you can only go up from there. You can only test up. And so that's what you need to do. Most people think about what they do. They're like, oh, we're this, we're this, we're this. Like, would you be interested in doing whatever? Right? So it's like it's all about us. It's not about the other company that you're reaching out to. On top of that, they write something up in 6.5 minutes and they're like, this looks good. You should actually like take a lot of time to think over what you're writing. How are you writing it? Does it flow? Read it out loud. Read it to somebody else. Get your partner on the phone and read it to each other. See which parts flow, see which parts don't flow. Figure out if you're missing gaps. Figure out if you're able to state who you are as a company, who you are as a person, and why you're reaching out to them in the first place. Give them a little bit of a little pep, right? Like give them a little bit of a pep talk. We're like, hey, we really like what you're doing with this. We were actually thinking about doing something very similar and blah, 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 right? Take it from a different angle. If a company already does what you do, or if a company already does what you're thinking of doing, you're going to have to approach it from a different frame of attack. Otherwise, they're going to be like, well, we already do this. We can already fulfill these orders. So what are you bringing to the table? So you have to introduce yourself, you have to give them a little pep talk, and you have to show what you can offer them, all within a very short period of time. And so because you stuck around me to the end of this video, I'm going to tell you the thing that you absolutely need to do if you're going to start utilizing these types of strategies. Think about it. You'll need one really good partnership with a company that's way bigger than you in order to actually blow up and start entering that same realm. Most companies will never do this. Most e-commerce brands kind of just play within their own pool, right? And so like they just continue to get stuck in that same pool of like, hey, we're all kind of in the same boat here. Don't do that to yourself. Take your company to the next level. Figure out a way to break through that ceiling. And so the number one thing that I recommend you do in order to actually increase the response rate, to actually increase the conversations you can have with some of these companies, is to create a follow-up sequence. Now the follow-up is actually even simpler than the offer. All you need to do is send them a 1 or 2 sentence follow-up being like, hey, never heard back from you. Would you still be interested in doing this? Blah, 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 blah. Give them some type of urgency. Give them some type of scarcity. Make it so that if they read that, if they see that come in, someone's going to forward that email to the CEO. Someone's going to forward that email to a higher up. And they're going to be like, okay, let's see what this company's got, right? So use it from that angle. And send the follow-up sequence no more than a week from when you first sent that email. Make it quick. If you sent out your first email on Monday, send out the next email on Wednesday or Thursday. Like try to get them on the phone. Every single email that you send should have one single outcome. Most of the time it's to get this person on the phone, to get them on a Zoom call, to get them into a meeting in person where you can actually go and sell what you're doing and what your company does, because you are not going to be able to explain the whole process of everything through the first email or through the follow-up sequence. Both of those things are no more than 300 words, right? So if you approach it from that angle, you realize that there's obviously a ton of detail missing, but you have to incite enough curiosity, you have to incite enough confidence, you have to incite a good enough offer for that larger company to read and be like, that's interesting. Right? And so this works for every single tier up the ladder. If you're a company that's making $3,000 in sales, you can find a company that's making $30,000 in sales. If you're a company that's making $30,000, you can do 300. You can scale it up infinitely, but you can't go way too high. But you can certainly go multitudes higher than what you're doing right now. And I've seen this happen. I've done this before. So it's a very realistic, but you're going to need to focus on the volume. You're going to need to focus on the offer. You're going to really need to dial it down and get it right. The more times you can get on the phone with these people, the more you're going to uncover about certain elements and certain things that you may not have thought about before. Note those things down and then edit your offer for the next batch of people until you get your first partnership. Once you get that first partnership, then you can start getting some of the other things going and rolling. And then from there, it's going to be a lot easier. But most people, they don't even do 20 of these types of reach outs. They don't ever take the time to be like, how should I craft my offer? Is this actually a great offer, or is this just an okay, good offer that I spent 35 minutes writing? When we're writing a good offer, I will spend hours and hours rewriting 3 or 4 sentences, because I know that those first 3 or 4 sentences will make the difference between them throwing that thing in the trash and them actually responding back to me. Don't forget the follow up as well. And one more thing I want to add, and I know this has been a very full video, a very long video, I'm sure, is that you need to make a subject, you need to make a title headline for your email that's very short, that's very punctual, and that will actually break their patterns. Don't be like, we are looking for a partnership as the subject headline. They're going to throw that in the trash right away. You have to break their patterns. Think about the things that make you stop. Think about when you send an email to a friend, to a buddy, right? You don't write out some really weird marketing headline and be like, hey friend, did you know about this? Like, we don't do that to each other. So why would you do that to this company? Because that company is going to utilize their pattern recognition and be like, oh, this is spam, throw it in the trash, right? And then that's the last time they're going to ever hear from you. So find a way to break patterns. Find a way to make every single part of your sequence reasonable in terms of like, why is this here? How does this take them to the next step? How does this kind of grow them through that sales funnel to that sales flow? And so if you can start approaching it from that angle, I'm almost absolutely sure, granted that you have a decent company, that you have a decent product that you can work with, that you can get a company that is much bigger than you to work with you. And hopefully that takes you to the absolute next level. So anyway, if this video helps you out, my name is Rich AK. I run a company called AK Growth, where we build and scale e-commerce brands just like yours. And so if this video helps, please leave a comment below. If you have any questions, if you liked it, leave me a like. It really helps. This is a small channel and I'm trying to help it grow, and I'm trying to get my word out and show people what I've learned along the way. And hopefully I can pick something up from you as well. So if you have questions, leave me a comment. If you know somebody who can really benefit from this video, share this video with them. Once again, it really helps out. And if you like me and you like what I have to say, subscribe, check my videos out. I have a bunch of other stuff on this channel. I'm uploading all the time. And so I hope to see you soon. Anyway, thanks so much for watching, and I hope you have a great day.